This is Shutters Inc. with Bruce Williams and Glyn Lavender.
Hi and welcome to episode 527 of Shutters Inc. This is Bruce Williams from shuttersincpodcast.com, and joining me from Melbourne, Victoria, once again from creativephotoworkshops.com.au, it is Mr. Glyn Lavender. How are you?
Morning all.
You're rugged up, mate. Is it a bit chilly down there?
I just came from outside from taking the kids to school. It was a bit
crisp.
Bit chilly. But yeah. So I've just put a jacket on.
Fair
Not
enough.
something I wear very often, but just felt the urge.
Fair enough.
It's kind of nice. It's nice to be able to wear a jacket. Something, you don't always wear one, so sometimes it's nice to put it on.
Sure. You're sounding a little bit mellowed out today. Are you all right?
Next question.
What's going on?
No way. Too much. Nothing I can talk about here.
Oh, okay.
All good.
Anything interesting in the last couple of weeks?
I went camping and fishing for 3 days, which was good.
Nice.
Yeah, so me and my mate, we've been planning an annual trip for the last 10 years. This is the first one we took.
That sounds like James and I in our motorbike rides. We haven't been...
You seem to have them, though, at least, yeah.
We haven't had one for about 2.5 years, so yeah.
This is literally probably a decade.
Wow.
Of planning. And so good. So we went up to a place called Corryong, which is up on the New South Wales border, and camped on a little private property right by the river, and put up I bought a new tent to go. Not because I bought a new tent a little while ago, but it's like a 10-person. So I built a little 3-person up in 2 minutes, down in 2 minutes tent, which is brilliant.
Nice.
Yeah, just sort of camped by the river and did some fly fishing and couldn't find any fish. And yeah.
Right.
Good weekend. Yeah, did some cooking.
That's good. Your team got up and beat my team, and you weren't even interested.
I know. I mean, that's kind of the irony that, your team weren't there.
No, they weren't.
Yeah, 14 players out of 22 out for COVID. Does make it a bit tough.
For those who don't know Aussie rules, you have 18 players on the field at any one time.
Yeah.
And 14 of our team were replaced from the week prior, mostly because of COVID. I think 12 were out for COVID and 2 were out for injury. It was just, we never had a hope. So...
But no, you had hope because the people you brought in were all premiership players, just about. 6 of them were. And the media beat it up as we're playing the under-12s, but in reality, you're still a reasonably competent team.
Yeah.
And since my team's the bottom of the ladder last year, I mean, you had a reasonable team to at least compete with a bottom of the ladder team. Yeah,
but we did have a lot of we had a lot of debutants as well. So, and to be honest, I think that was the perfect match to bring those new guys in on because, admittedly, your team has struggled of late, and so it was a good, probably fair playing field to give our new guys a chance. Give them a run on a big paddock with a big crowd there, and get used to that environment and that atmosphere.
It's the North Melbourne game, so it's never going to be a big crowd. But, I think there was 18 people there. I think it was just a couple less than people on the ground. Yeah, it's funny. It's the only game I've ever seen where the players cheer the fans because they're louder. It's more often.
Anyway,
all the forums on the social medias, they're all absolutely for all the North Melbourne biased ones. We're all going to town on how crap North were and how absolutely terrible, and they should be ashamed of themselves. I'm saying,
no, I thought they played pretty well.
Well, because I was away, so I didn't get to see the game. So I watched it the next day when I got back, and so I was expecting just absolutely lamentable, terrible quality. And sure, they weren't great, but they weren't pathetic. They weren't that bad, and the whole thing boiled down to you're in a lose-lose situation in a game like that. If you don't, if you lose, my God, you're the worst team that's ever played.
Yeah.
If you win but don't win by a huge margin, you're terrible. So the only way you can be successful in a game like that is to absolutely trounce the opposition, and It's not the way modern football's played. Yeah, it's all you have to do is man everybody up, put one player on another player, and it makes it pretty tough.
Exactly.
And then we lost our two best midfielders in the first half, which doesn't help either.
Yeah.
So it was an interesting game, but yeah. We'll take them. Yeah. We're not going to get many more this year. So we'll take the ones we can get.
To be honest, I don't think my team's going to get a whole lot of wins this year either. So
no, they're definitely on the downward spiral too. Yeah,
we need a whole new approach. We really do. And I don't like bagging out coaches, but I just feel like Simo has only got one game plan, and now every other team knows it.
No, don't give me that crap. Every team only has one game plan. This whole garbage about plan B is just, you've got no plan B, you've only got one. Yes, do you know how long it takes to get one game plan working? Years and years of drilling into a team how to play. Of course, you've only got one game plan because it takes. But I would agree that and I love Adam Simpson because he used to be the captain of my team. He's the loveliest of guys, but he's been there a long time. He's had the success. I think it's time to.
It's either that or I think he needs to allow some of the older players to be, put on the bench and let some of the new, younger, hungrier players get a bit more running time. Anyway.
It's tricky. Yeah, it's like anything like when you got to choose one group of people over another. Yeah,
to use the American terminology, it's easy to Monday morning quarterback, when you're not the guy having to come up with the results. So, anyway. Photography-wise, did you take your camera away on the weekend?
I took my iPhone,
Okay.
Yeah, I did. Took my iPhone and deliberately took a bunch of photos, knowing that Apple would turn it into a lovely little movie with titles and music.
Of course.
All for me.
And did it do that?
So it did that. It was lovely. Just sit there, and I was having a bit of a tough week or so, and just sit there and look at those memories. Even two or 3 days earlier, it lifted the spirit somewhat.
Yeah, because you're back in the city, but you get that opportunity to revisit when you're out in the bush in the solitude.
And it's a sequence. It's not just looking at a photo, but a sequence of photos. And it's not the same as looking at a movie, a bit of video footage, which video footage is one moment over a long period of time, whereas when you put together a slideshow of images, it's lots of moments at the same length of time. So so that was pretty cool. So I took that with the deliberate intention of taking photos, and nice. And I couldn't remember if it was waterproof or not. Yeah, so I decided to put it underwater to take a photo of a trout, and we'd find out. I put it underwater, the trout took off before we could take the photo. And it kept on working, but then I went to plug it in to charge it, and it wouldn't charge because the inside the charging port was wet. So that's the only downside. So my recommendation would be not to put your phone underwater if it's running low on battery.
Right.
It's going to be a while. But I suppose they've got those Qi chargers. I could have done something like that, I guess, where you don't have to, charging a plate as opposed to plugging it in.
Right.
To charge things up. Yeah, so I took a bunch of photos. We saw some. It's strange. I saw a weird part of the sky because the skies are beautiful up there. But we stood and sat and watched for maybe an hour and didn't see a single satellite, which in this day and age seems really quite remarkable.
Yeah,
especially in a perfectly pitch black. Yet the next night, at about the same time, we're seeing them everywhere.
Is that right? Wow.
Yeah, so it's just bizarre that for some reason that window of nothingness.
Yeah, nice.
And so
lovely.
But a good time. Yeah, it was good, and then I had to fly home and go to see Midnight Oil, the band.
Oh, nice.
So I was kind of after travelling over 1,000 kilometres and walking uneven rocks for 3 days, I was kind of beat to come home and go to a concert. But that was really good. Fortunately, we had seats, and that was their last ever Melbourne concert. So,
wow!
So they're splitting up at the end of the tour.
Right.
So, when I say splitting up, they're retiring.
Yeah. I've got to say, of Australian drummers, Rob Hurst has to be the most interesting to watch.
Yeah, he's a good drummer. I was watching him on the night and going, I don't think I've ever seen anyone enjoy themselves as much as this guy seemed to do up there. He's always got a smile. He's always, really enthused.
Yep.
And never seems manufactured.
Yeah.
So
I mean, I only ever saw them once, and that was admittedly 30 years ago. It was 92 on the Earth and Sun and Moon tour. But it was just fantastic to watch him in action back then, and I'm sure he's still as good then, or today, as he was then.
Yeah.
So.
Well, this is a postponed gig because he'd had
That's
COVID.
right.
So it'd be interesting. I was thinking, is he going to have any lingering effects? But he certainly seemed to have plenty of energy, which is
cool.
Yeah, I had my guitar lesson yesterday for the first, and my guitar tutor last week was off with COVID.
Right.
And my lesson yesterday was his first lesson back. And a young guy, he's mid-20s, I'm maybe saying, he's suffering complete exhaustion, can hardly function.
Really?
Yeah, a week and a half after, he's just absolute, like chronic fatigue syndrome kind of thing.
Yeah,
He's
right.
just completely wiped out. So a half-hour guitar lesson with me and you was spent.
Wow.
Which happens when people spend half an hour with me a lot.
Oh, dear. Okay. All right. Should we talk some photography?
And yourself? Have you done anything exciting?
No. The Tassie trip came and went.
Oh, you went to Tassie? That's right. You did too.
Yeah.
And
it was kind of strange. They were absolutely enthused for me, leading up to the trip. I flew down there. And he said, we'll have a meeting with the 5 of us. It was him, his wife, their 2 chief operations people, and myself. And we sat around for 2 hours and we chatted. And he said, I'll send you off with the 2 operations guys. Spent a couple of hours with them. And I went, okay, no worries. And then about 1 o'clock in the afternoon, he sticks his head into the studio that I was in with one of the 2 guys. And he goes, all right, we're out of here. We're heading back to Devonport now, because they lived in Devonport, which is an hour away from Launceston. And he said, we'll talk to you on Monday. And I went, oh, okay, cool. Yeah, catch ya. And at the time I was thinking, that's a bit odd. I didn't expect that they would, drag it out any further. And so anyway, flew back home, and Monday morning I sent him a text and said, thanks for flying me down. Had a great time. Didn't get a response until he rang me at about lunchtime and said, mate, it was great to have you down, loved having a chat, blah, 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 but we've decided that we just don't think you're the right fit for the company. And I was like, wow, okay, sure.
What did you say?
I said to him, I said, mate, was there something I said or did? And he sort of skirted around the question and, started praising me for my talents and my experience, and kind of made a bit of a half-hearted attempt at, saying that the video stuff was more where they were going and I didn't have much experience with that, which just, I don't know. It all felt really odd. And I reached out to a mate of mine in Hobart who knows the company well, has dealt with them as a business customer, and he had put in a great word for me the previous week. He had said to them, hire Bruce as soon as you can. And I told him the story, and his literal words out of his mouth were WTF. And I said, mate, I know, I'm just sort of gobsmacked. And he said, mate, they were so hot for you last week. And I said, yep. I said, all I can think is I said or did something and it just didn't resonate with them. And so I'm still kind of a bit gobsmacked by it, to be honest. A week and a half later.
I'm gutted for you. Yeah.
So the upshot of it was that you guys wouldn't have heard this part of the story because it happened after we'd recorded. So on the Thursday, hang on, what day did I fly down? I flew down on the Thursday. So on the Thursday morning, just before I left home here in Gosford to ride down to Sydney to catch the plane, I get a phone call from the ABC in Newcastle, who I did work for back in 2019.
Yeah.
And the chief of station there said, look, our promo guy has been seconded off to another role and will be gone for 6 months. Are you available to do a 5-day fortnight over the next 6 months? And I said, you won't believe this. I said, I'm just about to fly to Launceston for a job interview, blah, blah, blah. I told her the whole story. I said, I'll be in a better position to answer that on Monday. And she went, not a problem. And so when all of this transpired, I was able to go back to her and say, yep, I'm all yours. So I'm now doing a 5-day fortnight for the next 6 months with the ABC at Newcastle doing promos again, which I'm absolutely loving. I started there on Monday of this week, so I've had 2 days there this week, and most of that has just been getting back into the swing of things and getting software set up and all that kind of rubbish. But so that's going to be a lot of fun. On one hand, I'm kind of a little disappointed about the other gig, but at the same time, I'm really enjoying being back with ABC Newcastle because I had a great time when I was there in 2019. So I expect that I will really enjoy that as well. So, yeah.
I would have to say that being the flightiness of this decision-making that this company in Launceston did, you might be better off not working for them.
I'm kind of thinking that.
Yeah.
I'm kind of thinking that.
You may have escaped.
I've had other people say exactly the same thing, that I may have dodged a bullet there. So,
yeah, I mean, it's and if they can't be honest and say, hey, look, this is why, or, then there's a certain amount of disingenuousness going on there that is never fun to work with anyway.
Yeah.
So if you can't have a straight relationship with those people, especially when you're working remotely, where there's no time for nuance, we need straight to the point. I think maybe I certainly understand the disappointment, but the benefit of hindsight may say, hey, it was the right step for
And the thing is that the role that the incumbent promo producer has been seconded off to is a trial role for the next 6 months, which may become a permanent thing. And if that's the case, then I will be in a pretty
darn solid position.
Good position to step into the role as a full-time thing. So so anyway,
stuff,
that's been my couple of weeks.
That's been a hell of a couple of weeks. Oh goodness.
Anyway, should we talk some photography?
Stuff. I suppose we should.
Do you want to cover your stuff first?
First, I've got a little confession to make, Bruce.
What's that?
I cheated on you.
Oh, did you? You've been on another photography podcast.
I went to another photography podcast last night.
Who with?
With Cameron and Brendan on the Southern... Well, I don't know what the podcast is even called. So, Southern Photography Podcast.
Right, okay.
What they call it. It's good promotion for them. Do you remember that list of top 15 podcasts in Australia that we did the other?
Yeah, vaguely, yeah.
They were number 6.
Right.
We were number 5, they were number 6. But the thing is, they're up to number 6 already. They was only doing the 34th episode.
Right.
I'm just trying to see, did we actually do that 15? Maybe we didn't do that 15 top podcasts.
I don't think we'd actually got around to that.
Someone did a blog post of the top 15 photography podcasts
in Australia
you need to listen to. No, we did, because I think you did number 2s last week.
Right.
Anyway, in Australia, listen to, and we were number 5, they were number 6.
Yeah.
And they had 13 listed of their top 15 podcasts. They suddenly went to 13. That's right, because Philip Johnson commented on the podcast Facebook page that he went to 13.
Right.
So kind of odd.
Yeah.
So I did it. They do a video podcast.
Oh, okay.
So I did sort of an hour chatting with them about travel photography and stuff. So
from your current position on your bed?
No, I was on the couch.
Right.
Yeah.
Excellent.
Yeah.
Stepped it up for them, I see.
Yeah. Went to the studio.
Yeah. Nice. Excellent.
So let's talk some photography. What's going on? Anything exciting?
Well, I can cover the stuff that we've received. Richard Annable.
I want to listen to your dulcet tones.
Richard Annable, who we've not heard from in yonks, wrote an email and said...
Who?
Said, "G'day fellas, catching up on episodes, and I'm currently enjoying the first episode from 2022.
That's it. So he's lying already.
About enjoying it. I feel Glyn's pain when it comes to delivery delays. I ordered a Nikon Z9 in late December, and at the latest report, the expected delivery date is August.
Wow.
Normally, the impatient bastard in me would have just taken my money back and spent the $9,000 on throwaway things like food and bills, but the Z9 is like a D850 on steroids, with edge-to-edge focusing as well as a much improved AF system, which I cannot wait to use, but I have to until August.
Let's just unpack that for a second.
Okay.
With he lists of all the features the camera has, he lists the much improved AF system and edge-to-edge focusing. So now we know how he sold it to his partner to spend $9,000 on the camera. They're oh no, it's got much nice. Oh, the focusing so much better. See what I'm working with at the moment, because those really fast-moving brides and corporate functions, I really need the much faster autofocus system. And of course, they're moving pretty fast. So I need edge-to-edge focusing because they don't stand in the middle when I ask them to. They're running around. So I can see how he's decided that $9,000 on an SLR to 2 events is worth it.
And secondly, after God knows how many years, Glyn has provided the most serious and best piece of photography advice I have ever heard from him.
I'd like to apologise in advance.
If you want to be a professional photographer, learn how to run a business. Seriously, the best advice I've ever heard from any photography podcast. Thirdly,
it's good, isn't it?
Yeah,
it's good. So I do know what I'm talking about.
There you go. Thirdly, he mentioned Imogen AI. I've been using it for a while now and have used it for weddings, portraits and events. That combined with Aftershoot for AI culling, I can cull and edit a wedding in 3 hours, including a quick look through to check everything. I culled and edited a 2-hour event and delivered it the following morning. Happy to elaborate if you want. Keep up the good work. I'm looking forward to catching up and listening closer to real time. Richard Annable, the person who created the crap giggle saying so dear to the podcast. Thanks, Rich.
So in 3 months' time when he's caught up, Richard. Well, he's obviously not been listening for a while, so he can just stick it, can't he? He was one of the 7, so it sounds like we've been into 6 for a while, Bruce.
Apparently so.
But we're like a drug. You can go cold turkey, but eventually the cravings, it draws you back in.
That's it.
Since 2005, Shutters Inc. has been a labour of love. But beyond the time required to produce it, there is also a financial commitment. If you find value in the podcast and would like to help keep the service running, hit up the Patreon link, which is in the show notes. Even a couple of dollars a month will help. Much appreciated. Now, back to the podcast.
And then Paul Sutton sent us a whole bunch of different links. The first one is to some wooden cameras, which are replicas of real cameras.
I wouldn't take photos of those.
Boom, boom. And he made the comment, by the way, let's have it more expensive than the actual product it's replacing as advertised in the models below on eBay. And I followed the eBay link, and sure enough, the cost of the wooden replica was more than an actual example of the camera. So I thought that was hilarious.
That's crazy, isn't it?
He then had an article from F-Stoppers, Stuff You'll Regret Buying in 2022. Now, I had a look through this list, and some of it I agree with, but some of it I'm not so sure. Filters? Yeah, okay. I don't know that I would.
Yeah, let's have a look. I'm pulling up the list.
I don't know that I'd necessarily regret buying filters, as long as you're buying filters that you know you will actually use.
The stupidest purchase you can make is a UV filter. What a total load of crap. It sounds harsh, and I will admit to making this mistake myself. As the case for protecting your front element with one of these, I don't think it adds that. Well, hang on a second. It doesn't have to add anything. If it protects your lens from getting damaged, that's enough.
Yeah.
That's not a regret. That doesn't have to add to the photo quality. What it does is it protects your bloody lens. The amount of smashed and destroyed UV filters I've seen over the years that have protected expensive bits of glass.
Is that right?
Would count in the hundreds.
Really?
Hundreds.
Wow. I used to do that. I used to have a UV filter on the front of my lens all the time. And probably about 15 years ago, I just went, yeah, this is not doing anything, because I haven't ever dropped my camera in such a way as to crack a filter. And I've been shooting without one ever since, and I have never dropped a lens in a way that I would crack the front element. So,
can I just say one thing?
Yep.
It takes once.
Yeah, fair enough.
It only has to happen once. And it's not just a matter of dropping. You could be walking along with your camera over your shoulder with the cap off because you're taking photos, and you turn around and you just scrape the lens on something.
Yeah.
You know, there's lots of circumstances where I've seen it. And whilst there's probably a slight case, he says cheap filters can also cause unwanted lens flare. I've never seen that either, to be honest. But then don't buy cheap ones.
Yeah.
It still doesn't mean it's the stupidest purchase you can make. It's a UV filter. I mean, the guy's a moron. Who's writing this crap?
Yeah.
Not trying to be opinionated or anything, but what a tosser.
The person guilty of this is Ilya Ovcha.
Yes.
A fashion photographer and coach based in Munich.
Oh, well, they can stay there.
Yeah, I would highly endorse the don't buy the cheap ones, because if you're walking around with a expensive L series lens if you're a Canon user, or a GM lens if you're a Sony shooter, or whatever the Nikon equivalent is, where you've paid for the expensive glass, then you don't want to compromise the quality of that lens by putting an El Cheapo filter on the front.
Yeah, but you put a good one on. It's not going to make. It's going to make what 0.00001% of a difference.
Yeah.
I mean, come on, if you can tell the bloody difference, and you show me all the photos taken that with and without filters, tell me which ones are which.
Yeah.
You can't. It's all bullshit. And talking here about UV filters used to be helpful in days of film when UV light would decrease image quality. Well, once again, that's not the purpose. If you live here in Australia and look at the all the gum trees and the haze on them on a bright sunny day, UV filters reduce haze in the air. Yeah. Yes, you can do some of that with post, but if it's coming in cleaner to start with.
Yeah,
it's just
so much the better. Number two,
filters such as hang on, I haven't stopped being annoyed by this one. There are certain filters such as variable LEDs that are helpful in some applications. Well, how generous of you! But those also need to be tip-top quality to ensure the best possible image quality at the end of the day. Bullshit. It's going on Instagram. No one's going to tell the difference. Next.
Number two, rigs or cage cases. Again, I would say
another top bag. What stupid rig case is useless unless you do video. Well, they're designed for video people.
That's right. They're not designed for still photographers.
I can't wait to see the comments on this.
Number three, a light meter. Now, although I don't use a light meter myself, if you are in the fashion world, I can see that a light meter might be worth having in your kit. It comes down to the style of photography you do. If you're a landscape photographer, it's an absolute waste of time. But I don't think it's necessarily a bad purchase for every photographer.
I think if you're a studio photographer, it's very handy. Yeah.
Yeah.
I admit there's not a lot of benefits in other environments, but anyway.
If you're an astrophotographer, there's not a whole lot of point carrying a light meter. The fourth one on the list, this is probably the first one I agree with. Lens balls.
I was going to say, it's probably the first one I agree with as well. Lens balls.
So this is basically just a solid piece of perspex that is polished into a perfect sphere and will give you the look of shooting through a raindrop where your entire image gets inverted and distorted like a circular lens. That's the kind of thing that you're going to use it once, and the next time you go to use it, you're just going to go, oh, yeah, been there, done that, and you'll never use it again. So I do agree with that one. Number five, camera skin.
Stupid. No, the next one, another stupid. The pinnacle of ridiculous purchases. What an absolute joke. I think buying anything you put out, mate, might be the bloody pinnacle of ridiculous purchases.
I've not actually seen a skin like this, but I can imagine.
I used to have one because I destroy my camera gear. I mean, they just scrape on the ground. All the paint comes off them. I knock buttons off. I mean, I did all sorts of damage. These things are great. So there are silicone rubber skin that goes on the outside of your camera, stop bangs and knocks.
It's not going to protect you from knocking the buttons and dials off the camera, but I can appreciate that it will at least reduce the number of scratches that end up on the actual body of the camera. So if you are the type of photographer who once every 5 years, retires their camera body and sells it on eBay and then uses those funds to part purchase the next replacement, then this could at least help with the resale value of your cameras.
All this crap about not only does it not protect your camera, well, how can it not protect your camera from scratches? Again, it might not stop impact, but that's not necessarily what it's designed for. But it also attracts attention to it, which is something you shouldn't want. Well, who cares if people look at your camera? But he talks about lens skins, not just camera skins. I see the wildlife guys using camo versions of those, especially on their lenses. When you've got a 600 f4, which is a metre of bloody glass, you don't want a big metre black or big metre white thing sticking out of a bush.
Exactly.
So having it camouflaged, nothing wrong with it at all.
Yeah.
If you want a camera skin, consider bashing your precious one around for a few years, covering it in tape and using it as a tool. I promise you'll be able to tell that it's your camera simply by looking at where the scratches are. It's not about... If you're a professional, you likely own two of the same camera. In that case, having a camera skin is even more useless because you simply need to put a sticker with one and two. It's not about just knowing which camera's which. Has this got comment? And there's no comments, is it? Oh, no, 87. Oh, God. I was disappointed.
Give it up, Glenn. I've moved on.
I'll have a quick look. I may not use my Minolta flash meter very often, but I certainly do not regret buying it some 25 years ago. It has paid for itself many times over. The one picture in the article is a light meter and a flash meter, but let's go ahead and split hairs. Flash meters are redundant in modern workflow. They're designed to make sure that you get a good exposure on film. No, they're not. When you couldn't see it. People are idiots. If people don't know, if you're working in the studio and you're running, say, 3, 4, 5 lights, and you want a very precise amount of light coming out of that and hitting your subject, then you could walk up and position the light meter exactly on the side of the head, let's say, where you want the light to be. It will trigger the flashes and it will read out how much light's hitting there.
Yep.
So if you want that light to be 5.6 and it's not your main light, so you've set your main light out, your aperture of your camera's determining distance, etc., with your main studio flash.
Yep.
But you've then got to try and figure all those into the system. You can sit around and try and figure out the math of all of them, or you can just go press one button and dial down your power till you get it to 5.6. You want your next light, you want it to be F4, so you go around, you trigger it, and you power it down till it's putting out F4.
Yeah.
What's wrong with that? There's nothing wrong with that as a system at all. It works. It's always worked. It'll continue working. I can't read these things. I can't.
Move on, mate. Move on. Give it up. Build a bridge. Get over it.
I don't think there's enough funny stuff. I don't agree for 100% with 3 out of 6 viewpoints. So I think I don't agree with most of them. So he's. I almost gave up, and here we go. This has got to be one of the dumbest articles. I presume written to get responses so Ilya can earn a bit more from it.
Yeah.
Yes, FS pays more if there is more interaction. FS, don't know that one.
F-stoppers.
Oh, is that what it is? Okay, it's not F-stoppers, okay. Hence the myriad of dumb... They pay more if there's more interaction, hence the myriad of dumb articles. I'll let the author earn an extra penny just so I can tell him that this is dumb. And the guy goes on for a bit, he goes, clickbait pretty much. Every single word of Lee's... I second every single word of Lee's opinion. In conclusion, the quality of content is decreasing because of the urge for clickbait and more income. It used to be quality over quantity some years ago. Clearly not anymore.
Yeah.
Oh, there we go. This article is a disappointing downgrade to the author's normal quality. Oh, he goes, so good on him, people for calling that crap out.
Yeah. I really like the next one that Paul sent us. It is photographers' 3,200 undeveloped film rolls hold the history of rock and roll.
Oh.
This is a story of photographer Charles Daniels, not to be confused with the Devil Went Down to Georgia song, who has been photographing famous rockers like Rod Stewart, Jimi Hendrix, The Who's, Pete Townsend, Aerosmith, Steven Tyler and others since the late 60s. Now, that's a bit of a stretch because this story actually pertains to a 3 or 4 year period where this guy was the photographer at a club in Boston called the Boston Tea Party, which ran from 67 to 70. And he was the MC and the only MC during the 4 years that the club was operational. And he had his camera with him all of the time. And so he's got these over 3,000 rolls of film that bizarrely he has never had developed.
He doesn't say why in the article, or you probably haven't read it.
I skimmed through it. I haven't read every single word of it, but I did skim through it. I didn't see a reference as to why he never had these roles developed. Yeah, just a phenomenal story. And some of the images certainly do capture a moment in rock history that, music aficionados have not seen before, which is great. Not that they haven't seen that period, but just, this particular club or this particular venue.
Of course. Who knows what? Zeppelin, Pink Floyd. So is he getting them developed?
They reached out to a company called, sorry, I did see it, but now I need to find it again, Film Rescue International, who've been developing expired films since 1983, and they've sort of started communications with them, and originally inquired about whether or not Film Rescue International would do a bulk discount for a bulk number of rolls, and initially they said no, we don't. But then when they came to understand the nature of these rolls of film, they said, okay, well, this is a project we'd really like to be involved with. So presumably they have come to some sort of an arrangement and they are going to get all of these rolls of film developed. So pretty exciting stuff. So, yeah.
Yeah, because they've developed 100 rolls using a little grant. That might be the original. How astounding, huh?
Isn't it?
But just makes you wonder just how many other little nuggets of stuff are out there that have never been seen,
Absolutely. Now, I was going to ask you, because you've had more experience with film than I have, how long will film remain stable in an exposed but undeveloped state?
Lots to do with conditions, humidity, temperature, all that sort of stuff.
Yeah.
But, it will theoretically stay on for decades and decades. Okay. But it may slowly degrade, so you may get some colour shift. So, what was reds might be start becoming greens. I don't know the exact shift of what colour to colour. But so you may get some of that sort of stuff. The black and white ones, funny enough, the colours don't shift as much.
Boom, boom.
But, boom, boom. Yeah, so there's generally, if they've been stored well, it's not a major... they're still going to get something out of them.
Yeah, nice. Yeah, so great story. Thanks, Paul. And the last one he had was from displaysynopsis.com. I've not heard of this site before, but this was just a bunch of, interesting, quirky photographic techniques. And Paul said, seriously, I will try number 15 with the cutout. It reminds me of Coke and filters. A little bit like learning the technique behind magic tricks. All the best with the new job. Yeah, well, new job didn't happen, but anyway.
New job.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, true. So this is one you can just scroll through and look at all the pictures and pretty much pick up the idea of how these techniques have been pulled off, because there is no text accompanying them. So, yeah. And there's some clever stuff in there. And number 15 that he referred to is simply some, cut out shapes in pieces of cardboard, which you can mount into the front flange of your lens over the front element to create some interesting bokeh effects.
That's a pretty easy thing to do.
Yeah. Not something I've ever done, to be honest.
Me.
And that is my list. What have you got on your list?
I don't think I've got anything.
You've got heaps.
What's the name of them? Insta360 is releasing a new modular camera, which I thought looked pretty interesting.
Okay.
So it's basically an interchangeable lens action camera.
Wow.
And, so you can interchange the lens from being a 16mm ultra wide angle, like a lot of these action cameras are, to a full 360 camera by changing the lenses. So that seems pretty versatile. And if you're in that kind
Is this the
market,
first action camera to do interchangeable lenses? I've not heard of anything else before.
That I've seen. Yeah.
Yeah, right.
So I'm not sure. I'm not an expert.
Yep.
But yeah, I thought that was pretty cool.
Yeah.
I did see this week some new photographs of Jupiter, with probably the highest definition I've ever seen. But there's this great shot of just like the arc of Jupiter with two of its moons in it, and it's just quite stunning. So I thought people might want to see that.
Nice.
And sadly, and I know this will be fairly sad for yourself, Stephen Wilhite died this week.
And he was?
He was the creator of the GIF file format.
The GIF format, right.
Well, apparently...
No, don't get me started.
It's a GIF.
Don't get me started. It's not a GIF, it's a GIF.
So this is what I was going to talk to you about. It's graphics. Graphic, that's graphics. It's the G. The word is graphics. What sound does graphics start with?
G.
G. G. Not a J.
Yeah, so it's GIF.
So, but there's a whole video here, and it's pronounced GIF, not GIF. So apparently, I don't know why, but the poor old bugger died of COVID. So
that's a bit rough.
Yeah, and but fortunately, someone captured a bunch of little individual shots as he was going on his last breaths, and they put it into a GIF. So he's like, alive and dead. He's alive and dead. He's alive and dead. Alive and dead. You know? Poor bugger.
That's terrible.
What else have I got on there? I know, it's terrible.
And the Kickstarter for Thingify.
That's right. Yeah, so Thingify brought out, launching a pinhole camera that is a zoom. And, well, apparently they've already got a zoom pinhole camera. So, what I can gather, the history of this company, they invented this pinhole camera and they kickstarted, and the thing that made it different is that variable aperture, which is pretty rare for a pinhole camera. Yeah. Then a few years later, they brought out a pinhole camera that was a zoom. So they had a zoom on a pinhole, which is also pretty rare. And now they're coming out with a pinhole camera that's got a zoom and variable aperture. So it's kind of the two ideas brought together.
Right.
And I thought that was kind of fun, you know.
Yeah.
Something. I mean, because once again, it's all about the look, and they do produce a unique look.
Am I right in thinking that the variance in aperture in a pinhole camera would simply be the distance from the pinhole to the film plane or sensor in this case?
No. Maybe. No. It'd be the size of the hole. It'd be the size of the pinhole.
Right.
Because it's like any aperture, it's a hole.
Right.
So the hole gets bigger, the hole gets smaller. I imagine. I know.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
So how do they do the zoom then?
The zoom. Okay, so the zoom may work from the distance. The distance. Yeah, right. I looked, but
that makes sense. That makes sense.
Yeah.
Much like a regular lens. Yeah.
Yeah. So that was just kind of cool. That was it. I just had a few little things there.
Nice.
You know? And that was it.
Cool. Yeah. Well, all those links will be in the show notes for those that want to check them out.
Those who are desperate enough.
That's it. Those who've got nothing better to do with their week. Well, mate, good to chat.
You too, mate.
And I hope you
have some breakfast.
Hope your next 2 weeks is better than the last 2 weeks.
I doubt it.
Oh, that's no good. All right, mate.
If anything, I'm expecting it to go downhill. So.
That's no good. All right, mate. We'll talk soon.
All right, take care, mate.
You've been listening to Shutters Inc. For questions, comments, and feedback, email theboys@shuttersincpodcast.com.